everyone. My name is Rafal, and I would like to welcome everyone to my third webinar. Today, we're going to go through business and marketing when it comes to headshot photography. I would like to welcome everyone. It seems like there was a lot of interest. There is a lot of people who sign up. So I just want to say big thank you to everyone to joining and being interested to this webinar. I'll try to make this as interesting as possible. We're going to go through tons of different stuff. I definitely want to hear your comments. If you guys have any questions, you can ask me during the webinar or also afterwards. We can dedicate some time to go through some of the details. I hope everyone will get something out of this which going to help you with your business. I've noticed there's a lot of people who are on different levels. There's people who sign up who starting off. There's definitely people who are intermediate and some professionals. Definitely I would try to kind of go through some of those basic stuff, also some advanced stuff. So definitely I will try to go through all sorts of different things and help you guys out with your business. Business, as you probably know nowadays, is extremely challenging. Doing great photos is a one thing. Running the business definitely takes completely different sets of skills, in my opinion, and I have to learn those too. It was extremely challenging for me. As you probably know, it's a long journey, and we have to learn all sorts of things. And I'm going to share with you a lot of those things from my own experience, something that I went through, and also things which, in my opinion, also kind of change over the time, because nowadays doing any type of business, it's a completely different game. There's different ways of doing things, and there's some of those things which worked before, they don't work anymore. And I'm guessing in the next, I don't know, year, 2 years, 5 years, this is going to definitely will be something that's going to be even more challenging. We entering the era of AI and automatizations, and then kind of huge competition when it comes to I would say artificial AI headshots. So that's also forced us to, I have to say, push the gear even more to make sure that we can compete with some of those things. It's what it is. I think we have to learn how to adopt it, how to make our work better, how to provide better service, and how to make our clients so happy and give them such a results that any AI cannot compete with this. And I don't want to go on the long rant on this. I want to jump in straight to the business. And I'm going to just share with you my presentation. We're going to go through some of those interesting things, and we're going to start with simple things, and then we're going to just kind of move on into some more advanced stuff. So let me kind of get going. It seems like there's quite a bit of audience already. Definitely people will be joining up. This whole thing is going to be available a little bit later. I will just make this public for everyone who is interested to check this out and learn something from it. So let's dive right into it, and let's go through this whole thing step by step. So this is my presentation, and let's kind of go step by step through it. So those are the things we're going to go first. We're going to go through technical skills. We're going to talk a little bit about portfolio, and also we're going to dive into website, what it's important, pricing, industries, and we're going to talk a little bit about negotiations as well. And then we're going to dive into like a second portion of it when we're going to talk about branding, marketing, finances, and all sorts of different kind of thing, all sorts of different type of things which kind of makes your business running, because this is something that we need to somehow keep it going. We need to make some kind of cash flow. We need to make sure that we have clients. I know this is the things which a lot of people are struggling the most, to just get this kind of consistency with coming business, and we'll talk about it as well, how to kind of keep this going. So let's start with the basic stuff and let's talk a little bit about the technical skills. And I'm not going to talk much about what kind of lighting, what kind of cameras we need. This is something that I think I covered in the different webinar where I talk about lighting and lighting setups and then equipment and lenses and all this cool stuff. Here, I want to kind of talk a little bit more in the general kind of terms when it comes to how to approach um, I would say gear, how to approach technical skills. This is something which is just, the starting point. And, especially at the beginning, we try to figure out, what equipment do we need, what lighting do we need, what setup do we need to make this work. It's take a little bit of time to kind of get this whole figured out. There's so much out there nowadays that it's kind of overwhelming, I think, for a lot of people who are kind of getting into this. And but a little bit kind of my point of view. um don't go kind of overboard when it comes to top of the line stuff. Especially if you're starting off, start with the basic stuff. Nowadays you can not only purchase those stuff for half price. What I mean, you can buy the used equipment, which also is going to work really really well. Try to set up what works best for you. There's a lot of information out there, what kind of gear you need, what kind of lighting setup you need, and start kind of small. Because if you're not sure if you want to get into this, then it's don't spend tons of money and then just kind of like, what I'm going to do with this now, I don't want to do this. But if you reach the point where you decide, okay, I'm going to go full in with this and I want to continue, I want to make business out of it, then it's worth it to start investing a little bit more into equipment and gear. And as I said, like, you can really slowly scaling up to the point where, you're going to get the stuff the way you want it. The one thing what I want to say about the equipment, and I talk about it, but I want to mention that if you decided to go kind of full time and you want to do business out of it, the one thing what I'm what I would like to share, especially when it comes to the lighting, go with constant lighting. This is something that it's a lot of debating, and I know a lot of people using strobes and stuff, but you have to look not only from perspective of how this is work for you, but also how this whole thing works for your client. So constant lighting, it's, I would say, I'm not saying mandatory, but it's going to give you best out of it, going to give you amazing experience. It's going to make this whole job easier for you, and also it's going to make your client experience this from kind of different way, and it's going to be win-win situation for everybody. When it comes to all this, setting cameras, lenses, again, this is something you can strictly figure it out. Full frame, of course. You can go with zoom lens, you can go with fixed lens. Just make sure you're getting those stuff, so it's going to work in favor for your headshot photography. But what I want to say here, and this is, I'm not going to go into this technical details. What I want to say, you have to figure out this whole thing, and the technicals should be like something that it's going to be figured out um, the way that you understand, and you don't have to kind of worry about it. Especially if you're doing this professionally, you don't want to struggle with camera settings, lighting, and all this stuff throughout the photo shoot. If you not there yet, what I would suggest, go and do a lot of free sessions where there's no kind of money exchange situation, and people kind of like pay you, and then you're seeing you struggle getting the results. Technical skills, especially if you're in the business, this is should be figured out. You should have this kind of recipe, what works, what doesn't work, and then when a client comes in, you know exactly what you are doing. And I think for a lot of photographers, it's a challenging, especially if they're starting off. So make sure you have everything figured out, and you're ready basically to go, especially if you're shooting everything kind of commercially where you're going for sessions and then you're shooting, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 people. There's no literally time to playing with settings, playing with lighting, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. This whole thing has to be set up, and you should know exactly what's happening. um, the next one is knowledge of composition. Also, that was like, it's kind of simple thing and kind of obvious, but you want to create some kind of consistency in your work. So if you shooting and every image looks like it's from different book, then it's gonna cause you a lot of trouble, because especially if you're shooting for specific client and they have specific requirements, you need to understand that part. So creating this kind of like composition and crop which kind of works for all your shots, that's going to make this whole thing much easier. And I know it's obvious for me and for a lot of other photographers who's been doing this for quite some time, but I remember when I started, that was one of the biggest things that I was trying to do, like headshots and then 3/4 ones, and then try to kind of please the clients with different stuff. But unfortunately, if you're doing this as a business, you have to kind of create some kind of style of images and stick to it, and just kind of create consistent, and I know it's going to sound kind of weird, the same work. So if client comes in, you can say, hey, this is what I do, those are type of images I'm creating, so they know exactly what they can expect from you. Post-processing skills, the same thing, that should be kind of figured out. Nowadays we have AI, and it's something that can do this whole thing quickly, efficiently, and you don't have to spend tons of time doing it. I create this another webinar where you guys can jump in and then listen about the retouching part. But the reason I put that in this whole webinar is the fact that back in the days, a lot of hatchet photographers, there was like a one of the biggest chunk of their time where they have to kind of deal with those shots, and they have retouchers. They were outsourcing the work. Some of them, they're doing this whole work by yourself, like me, and I spent tons of time retouching my images, and that was the most time consuming. Nowadays, you can retouch your images within like literally minutes, and you can dedicate that time into something different, like promoting, networking, working on your website, blah blah blah. There's tons of stuff you can do. So this is extreme relief nowadays, that we don't have to waste that much time on retouching part. And as from the business perspective, this is something which definitely is amazing, and definitely something that's gonna bring you more valuable time which you can dedicate it to something else. Repeat the process efficiently. That's exactly what I've been talking about. You need to have system, you have to have the gear, lighting setup, and entire process as efficient as possible, so you can just repeat this process over and over again, and basically just make money. So the client comes in, you have everything set up, you have everything kind of in place, you know exactly what you're doing, you're working with the client, you're getting the shots, you're delivering them quickly, efficiently, and you don't have to worry about any kind of challenges. And the more efficient the process is, and we're going to talk about it, how to make this more efficient, the better business person you're going to have, and you can just kind of like run for way more people, make more money, and create stunning work where every client will be exciting, and it's going to promote you, and it's going to kind of help you to grow your business. Also, the last one, technical troubleshooting, and this is the main reason I put that in, is that you have to be prepared for all sorts of technical challenges. And I've learned that from my wedding experience. So I remember when I was shooting weddings, I always was prepared if something kind of goes sideways. And I'm talking about cameras, lenses, lighting. So it's good to have some kind of backup prepared, even though hatchet photography is not, as I would say, well, not as kind of tense as wedding photography, because you cannot repeat the wedding. If you go to the wedding and your equipment fails, and then you have no backup, and then basically the entire situation getting out of hands, then it's a different story. But when it comes to headshots, you can repeat, or you can kind of I don't know, ask the client to come back. But that's for the individuals. The story changes when you shooting commercially, and let's say you have high volume headshot sessions for 20, 30 people, and something kind of goes wrong, your equipment fails, or I don't know, lighting doesn't work or whatever. Then it's problem, because what happens is, like, if you have to even redo it, you have to again planet everything, and then just kind of get these people all together. And especially for corporations, they don't like that, right? They definitely don't want you to coming back, and then they have to redo this whole thing all over again. So the one thing what I always have as a backup is at least couple extra lighting with me, and also extra camera. So I have two buddies, and then I have some couple extra lighting just in case something goes wrong. Even though nowadays we have equipment which definitely doesn't fail as much, and it's more efficient, and works better, but you just never know, right? Okay, so let's move on. If there's any question regarding the technical stuff, yeah, please feel free to just drop the comment, and then we'll talk about it a little bit later. Okay, so let's start with the basics. And I'm going to talk first about portfolio, because this is your business card. This is something that you're going to promote yourself. This is how your clients are going to judge your work, and that's how they're going to make a decision if they're going to want to work with you or not. And this is extremely important. This is something which is the first step into the business part, building your portfolio. As I said before, if you don't have any images, if you, let's say, starting off, and even if you're a professional, I constantly work on my portfolio, changing, adapting, making sure that my portfolio looks as best as possible. And this is something that evolve over the time. This is not something that you just put it up and you're hoping it's going to work. So I want to kind of give you a few very important tips which I use in my, I would say, business. And I also have learned some of those stuff from my wedding photography. So the first thing what I want to talk about is only show the best work you have. Even if you have 5 images or 2 images or even 1 image, show the best work. Don't show 100 images and hoping that clients somehow will like some of it. You want to make sure that the stuff which you're showing is the stuff which represent the best work possible. One of the things what I've learned when I was a wedding photographer, and I was calling those images selling shots. So basically, what was happening whenever I was presenting my work to the client, I was showing an album, and then I've noticed that some of those images from the wedding were making huge impact on the client. So basically, they were like looking at the album, and all of us are like, "Oh my God, look at this shot! Like, I really love it." And so I started kind of paying attention to this, because I've noticed that those images kind of help me to sell my services, because those are the images which make huge impact on my clients. And then what I started doing, I was starting like pulling those images out and literally creating separate albums with those sales images, which basically just I knew if clients were going to go through them, they're going to hire me. And the same thing I do when it comes to my headshot photography. There are images which make bigger impact on my clients, and I always try to like ask them which images they like the most, which image kind of make them decided that they want to work with me, and those are the images I'm implementing into my portfolio. So what I want to say is also, like, we look at our work differently. Clients looking at these images differently. So try to choose shots which work more for the clients rather than you, because there's are images which we like a lot and they don't make a huge impact on the clients. But for some reason, clients see this whole thing work, definitely makes impact, and try to implement those images into your portfolio, because that's what's going to make you sell. Quality over quantity, this is what I've said. Just show best work, and also try to be consistent with your work, because if you're showing tons of different shots, also things which are not related to headshot photography, you have like a mishmash of different images, typically this is not going to work, because we're living also in the world where people go to those websites and they want to see your images instantly. They don't want to look and find stuff which they like. If they are looking for headshot photography, they want to go to your website and they want to see the shots which going to make them the quick decision if they like it or not. So consistency is extremely important. The next one is variety, especially ethnic variations. And this is something which also I've learned not a long time ago, but I have to admit it. But also you have to make sure you putting images, especially if you're living in North America or Canada, US, those are important elements. Because if, let's say, if you have images only, I don't know, like one ethnic, some people who are from different ethnicity, they don't want to kind of work with you for some reason. I've learned that so many times, and I get these comments where people look at my work and like, oh, you were shooting that person who is like, from kind of, I don't know, my ethnicity, and I love that picture. So people want to see kind of, people who they look similar, like they are, and then, like, it was something kind of interesting for me, especially I've been hearing those comments from some of my clients, and then I started kind of implementing those shots into my portfolio. And I knew this is going to also invite and make people more serious, and they're going to make a quicker decision to hire you for the work. The next one is, of course, styles of headshots. Try to figure out your style. I know there's a lot of stuff when it comes to headshot photography. Everyone try to kind of build your style, but like, quite often clients come to us not because of the kind of, I don't know, the lighting, whatever. They come for the style. And if you have consistent style over your work, and the clients can see that, this is the style which kind of they like, that's also kind of gonna make them make a quicker decision to kind of hire you, right? Because if you have 10 different styles and the clients comes in and they don't know what they want, you're going to be struggling, they're going to be struggling. So building that style of headshots, which kind of showcasing your work, and people going to say, hey, I've seen that shot, I know it's you because this is your style. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. Also, what is important, you have to kind of over time build this style which you like. It's not only about the clients, but it's important to creating shots which gonna kind of showcase your style behind it. And lastly, try to also make sure that, especially if you're shooting headshots and you kind of full into this business, show images from different contexts, such as business, branding, modeling, acting, dating. So when clients comes in and they want to hire you for specific kind of like context of headshot, like that this is what they're looking for because they have those needs, you have those images in your portfolio. So it's important to kind of show them, make sure they are included into portfolio, because that's what's going to make the clients make a decision to hire you. Okay, so that's when it comes to portfolio. As I said, it's the first step. I want to repeat it. If you don't have good images yet because you're starting off, shoot for free, build portfolio, and then start putting those images out. If you're professional, work on those shots. Don't kind of put them up and just kind of like keep them. Try to, as I said, I gave you some kind of tips how you can manage those shots to make your portfolio better and better with the time, because it's this whole thing is, as I said, evolving over the time. And when I look back at my portfolio, how it's been changing, it's kind of insane, right? Like, started with simple stuff, and then you getting those, like, I would say, amazing shots, which do the job, make you a lot of sales, and when people see them, they have hard time to resist to hire you. So try to find those shots, put them up there, and just kind of be proud of them, and then showcase them, and you will start seeing that people will be coming in and hiring you for the services. Okay, so the next one is the website. Let's talk about that. Especially if you're in that industry, website is a must. Like, I think you can have all this stuff on social media, but you have to have a place where clients can communicate with you, clients can see your portfolio, clients can understand your services, they can see what else is out there and what else you providing, and just to kind of have a little bit of understanding of what you are doing. Nowadays, building the website is extremely easy. There are all sorts of different services which can help you. You can do it yourself. You can buy templates. You can buy, like, there's, like, it's fascinating for me that nowadays people have a hard time to kind of, even some people, some photographers, they don't have a website. Where I remember back in the days where I had a IT person who was building my website and was taking months to do this. Nowadays, you can do this, like, decent website, I would say, within like few hours. If you understand the concept, you know exactly what you want to put out there. It's not a big of a deal. So it's really, really easy to not only build the website, but maintain it, and also you have all sorts of different additional things you can put it in to make your business run better. And we're going to talk about it. But let's start with the basics. The one thing what I want to point it out, if you have a website for your business, and you are headshot photographer, try to stick to headshots only. And the reason is because nowadays people have such a short attention span, I found. And if they come into your website and they see weddings, they will see architecture, they see portraiture, and I don't know, baby photos, and then somewhere there you have headshots. You just basically killing your business, because if someone comes in to see your headshots, and they have to start finding those things, usually if you don't catch their attention within the first couple seconds, this whole thing, it's pretty much done. So try to make sure that the website is designed so the client understands it's only about the headshots. Especially also nowadays, so we can bull, if you have other businesses, and I don't know, you're shooting weddings, you're shooting some other stuff, try to build different websites, right? And it's much easier to do. So when a client comes in, then you can just basically just dedicate it each site to each kind of, you know, concept or whatever you're doing when it comes to photography. The next one is easy navigation. That's huge. You want to make sure that when client comes in, they can easily book you, they can easily find the portfolio, they can easily find everything what they need to find, and then you probably also know what works best. So they need to kind of navigate through the website easily. They don't have to try to, like, go from, I don't know, 10 pages to find your pricing or whatever. Everything nowadays has to be very simple, very I would say easy to find. There is no time for clients to kind of going on the escapade to find information they're looking for. Pricing info, that's something which is interesting. And then there's different schools when it comes to pricing. Some people saying the pricing should be there, some people they shouldn't. I don't have prices on my website. I prefer when the clients contact me, and then we can discuss pricing, because I also found over the time that a lot of clients, they have sometimes don't much understanding how the pricing works for headshots. And what happens is a lot of clients, when they see the price and it's higher, they just basically go somewhere else, even though if you talk to them, they would probably hire you if they could have a better understanding. So my goal is to pretty much get the client on the call, or get them interested, and then I can explain a little bit better. Next one, services offered, packages. You definitely want to have some kind of packages to kind of scale your work. um, Again, you can build it up whatever works best for you. I kind of stretch those services sometimes, like, what I mean when it comes to my packages. Even if I say, let's say, I don't know, the time is 45 minutes and I stretch it to an hour, that's fine. We'll talk about a little bit later why I'm doing this. But having some kind of packages so the clients understand what they are getting into and what they can expect from you is extremely important, so they have better understanding. Makeup and other services, of course, they should be included. Depends how you want to run it. When it comes to additional services, I don't include them into my services. Everything is kind of like kind of extra. And I work with a bunch of different makeup artists, but that's, we will talk about a little bit later. Testimonials is extremely important. Having some kind of testimonials from your clients, it's huge. Apparently nowadays people want to see them, people kind of judge them, people kind of get this positive feedback from people who use your services. So make sure you include them, because that's going to make a huge impact on their decision if they want to hire you or not. Contact informations, of course, it's kind of interesting. Sometimes I see websites where, I'm going for some service and I cannot find a place where I can contact the person. And it's kind of obvious if you really think about it, but at the same time, a lot of people forget about it. So the contact information should be also not only visible on the main page. There should be all sorts of different either links or, kind of boxes where people can reach out to you. So that's something, again, obvious, but it's important to have it done the proper way. And then, there's some additional stuff for the website. And then the company I'm using right now, and I've been using there for the last, I think, 6-7 years, is format.com. And this company allows you to basically plug it in all sorts of different stuff, like clients galleries, payments, and all sorts of different interesting things that, makes my business run much more smoother, much quicker. And I can communicate through with my clients. For example, like, if I do the photo shoot, I upload those images to my client galleries. The website automatically sends everything to the client. They can access it, they can communicate with me, they can highlight it, what they like, what they don't like. And that's something which, in my opinion, is extremely useful, especially if, you want to run your business smoothly. I don't kind of let my clients choose images throughout the headshot session. And I know there's different approaches, but the way I work, I like to kind of go for those shots, pick the best ones, and then send client galleries so they can kind of work on it either with me or with their friends. So that's kind of my approach. Um, so yeah, as I said, there's tons of different little, I would say, adjustments and little kind of those features on those websites which helps your business run this much more smoother. The next one, of course, is the mobile optimization. That's something also extremely important. You want to make sure that your website is really nicely working on your phones. Most people also find my services on the mobile. It's kind of obvious. Most of those templates, they work pretty great. But at the same time, like, when you have a website, check it out how it looks on your phone. If it's kind of, you know everything kind of works together, and then, people have access to all sorts of different things, so they can see your portfolio the proper way. Everything looks kind of smooth, nice. Nothing is kind of stretched and looks weird. Especially nowadays, as you probably everyone knows, um, people spend more time on their um, phones than on the computer. So that's extremely important. SEO, the same thing. If you are running a business, we could go for the long conversation on SEO, but I want to basically mention that you have to work on it. You have to make sure that your website can be found on all those, Google searches, and then, all sorts of different stuff. Most of those websites nowadays, including the one which I'm using from Format, they have really easy way to work on this. Also with the AI, we can automate this whole thing. But that's another discussion. We could spend another hour. But whenever you're going to be building your website, try to remember to make sure that SEO is looked after, and you've done this properly, and you look um, basically you look to kind of making sure whatever you're putting out there, SEO is working well with your website. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about the pricing. So pricing is one of the most challenging things for a lot of headshot photographers. So we're going to dive deep into this. And I know it's kind of like, for a lot of people, it sounds like it's easy thing. But I have to say, from my perspective, pricing is, I'm not saying challenging, but sometimes you have to be realistic about certain things. And a lot of people forget this. And then, we have all this social media, I would say, kind of impact on, like, oh, we should just charge crazy money, and like you have to know your worth and all this crazy stuff. But from one hand, I understand, and you have to value yourself, but also this value have to come from some kind of foundation. And if the foundation is not there, and you try to kind of like putting crazy prices on something which doesn't have the worth, that's not going to work. It's going to kill your business. You're not going to get clients, and then your business is going to die sooner or later. And I deeply believe that the biggest, I would say, um, eh, the best way to analyze and make sure your price is right is the market. If you put your services out there and you're getting a lot of clients, and you just kind of overwhelmed with work, that means you are charging not enough. If you have no clients, and nobody comes to you, that means the prices are kind of too much and too expensive. If you have, let's say, somewhere in the middle, that means you're doing the right job, and you can just kind of like trying to see what you can do to kind of get with the higher price, but also improve your services, and kind of provide some things that gonna just showcase that there's more value into your work. So let me kind of start from the basics. So how you even kind of decide what should you charge for your services? So there's few things what I want to say. One is the quality of your work, and you have to really look deeply into the quality of your work, and be the person who, like, what, okay, my work is not there yet, or my work is good, or my work is great. So you have to be very, very judgmental, and say, okay, you know what, and be brutally honest with you. What's the quality of your work? Your work will improve with the time, but at some point you have to, when you're putting those services and you start kind of trying to put the price on it, you have to be honest with yourself if that work is worth the price. Another thing is the city where you live. It's a different story when you live in New York City, and then it's a different story when you live in, like, I don't know, small town outside of, Calgary, where is, I don't know, 20,000 people. There's completely different approach, and you also have to be kind of honest about it. You cannot charge, people in that small city with some insane pricing, because nobody's going to come. So you have to be very, very delicate on that. And what's your competition is doing, right? You have to dive deep and do research and see what other people are doing, how much they charge, because nowadays everyone is looking for the price. Let's be honest. One of those elements how people hire you is the price, right? And we're going to go how to kind of create more value for the client, and how you can upscale and stuff like that. But you have to be, especially if you're starting off, and if you're not getting the right amount of business, you have to kind of also look into your competition and see what they're charging, and kind of like work with that as well. So those are the three components which I think they decide on the pricing. And then with the time you can work on it, and you can see how you can, adjust those and get better pricing for your work. The first thing when it comes also to the pricing is time commitment. And then the reason I'm talking about it is, everything depends how much time you put into the service. So let's say if you have 45 minutes photo shoot, then you have some consultation with that, and then is retouching and delivering. So you have to also kind of figure out how much time you dedicated into each client. Back in the days, as I said, was a different story when it comes to the retouching, because I spent tons of time on the retouching my images. Nowadays, the time is kind of like cut off to bare minimum, and I don't have to spend. So I can just, like, I'm not saying charging less. Client doesn't have to know I don't spend that much time, but times change, and then you can use that time to do something else. So you got to figure out that part. The value proposition, then what that means is building the packages. So the way you technically should build the packages is, the first, so typically you should have like 3 different types of packages, and you're always aiming for the middle one, right? So the first one, it kind of gives you the bare minimum, and you always want to kind of create the value proposition for the next one, that it looks more valuable for the client. And then the last one is something, kind of over the top, right? Where, you have those clients who, like, they don't care. They come in and they wanted the full service, the full package, the best service ever, right? So, that also takes time. And the way I look at this, it's my time. So my, like, basic photo shoot is, let's say, 30 minutes, and then they're getting, let's say, 3 images. um I don't do much of it, the kind of clothing options. So, like, in my case is, if even if the clients comes in for 30 minutes, they can do as many changes as they want. And the reason is, I'll tell you, I will explain in a second. But it's more about the timing, how much time I spent with them. So with this packages, also try to see what works for you, how you can adjust them. If you have clients who just picking up the cheapest one, that means there's something wrong with it, right? You always want to have most sales for the middle one, and or for the top one, right? The first one is usually, it's just like, just there to, kind of bring the client in. The next one, which is extremely important element, is upselling opportunities. And this is something where a lot of photographers out there losing tons of money. So for example, the way I approach this. So for example, like, the client comes in, they will take the middle package, where it's, I don't know, 1 hour photo shoot, and they're getting 3 images, but they can purchase more shots. And typically what happens is, if they have bunch of different um, clothing changes, they of course want to kind of get, sometimes or most of the time, couple shots from kind of each outfit, right? So that's you creating this opportunity to upsell. And this is something which I always encourage photographers, try to create a system which will definitely help you to upsell your images. So they're not ending up buying, like, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 images. Try to create a session where they can really go crazy. And some people do, some people don't, depends. But I found that, creating that kind of upselling opportunity for clients can always bring you more money. And sometimes what is fascinating, let's say you charge, I don't know, $700 for a headshot session. They get 3 images. And then, like, for extra image, they paying, I don't know, $100, right? So sometimes these sessions might go from $700 all the way up to $2,000-$3,000 if the clients, is interested to purchase more. So the better images you create, the more images you kind of create, that they have, like, I don't know, different outfits, different styling, and all this stuff, there's always chances that you can upsell more. And that's what I'm always trying to do. It's not just kind of get the bare minimum out of them. It's mostly creating this entire, I would say, series of shots, which they're gonna get these people interested to buying them. And then you can, like, really upsell those images and make way, way, way more money that, typically you would just get from the basic kind of package. um the next thing I want to talk about pricing is, and this is huge, simplicity and clarity. um Basically, what that mean by that is the fact that I think when you start confusing people with pricing and say, okay, if you get this, you're gonna get that, or if you buy this package, you have 20% of I don't know, just upsell images. um if you start making this whole thing complicated, like, it's frustrating people. And I'm sure everyone, when we're gonna get to these situations ourselves, it frustrates me. I want to know exactly how much I'm paying, how much is extra, how much I have to, I don't know, spend on the minimum, and how much, it's, if I have to, I don't know, upscale or upgrade or whatever. So everything is clear. On the top of it, you have to explain to your client everything before the session. It's no time to explaining the stuff after the session, because usually if you do that after and people kind of don't understand the pricing, they're going to make you feel like you're just trying to kind of, I don't know, screw them over or get more money out of them or whatever. And I've been in the situations before, and like I said, okay, you know what, I don't want to create tension between me and my client. And also, I don't want to have a situation where the client's getting frustrated and upset and angry because he expected or thought he's going to pay that much, and now is that much. This whole thing has to be figured out prior. So that's very important. If you building the pricing, just make sure your clients understand before you pick up the camera and start shooting, so they know exactly what you're getting into. And that's what's going to create, I would say, better connection with the client. And you can sell way more if they have a full understanding. So there's no any pressure, there's no kind of unknown or uncertainty or situation where the clients don't understand, and all of a sudden he's like, oh my god, I didn't know I have to pay extra for this. This is the worst time what can happen. And it's definitely creating this kind of like how I can say, mistrust. And then the clients usually they leave kind of cheating or something like that. Don't want to do that. Okay, and then let's move on, and then let's talk a little bit about individuals versus groups. Pricing for individuals is different, groups is different. Typically, when it comes to groups and those corporate headshot sessions, that's also extremely important. The same thing, you got to figure out everything prior. So there is no situation that afterwards you try to figure out the pricing. Whenever I'm getting inquiry for the group sessions, I'm sending them the pricing, kind of like how I charge per group. Also, I want to know as much information prior so I know exactly what I'm getting into. Don't give them price, I would say, straight from the inquiry, because sometimes what might happen is, I don't know, for example, you have a group of 10 and then all of a sudden, okay, you know what, we changed to 15 people, or the photo shoot has to be split up to 2 days, or there will be two different locations or whatever, or this person couldn't come, can you kind of come again, right? So you have to be kind of prepared for all those sorts of different situations, and get as much information prior. When is the shoot, how many people is involved, how long this session is going to take, where's the shoot, all those sorts of information, so you know exactly what you're getting into. And then based on that, you're building the package or building the price for the groups. And for the groups, I don't have some kind of like I have a starting point, but based on the information I'm getting from the clients, typically what happens is I'm building the kind of custom package for the group sessions. That's kind of mandatory because, as I said, with those corporate stuff is a completely different uh game. You have to approach this differently, and you don't want to get yourselves kind of screwed. Also, speaking of that, especially for individuals and groups, make sure you're getting deposits, because especially with the corporate world, I don't want to kind of say that happens all the time, but if I'm working with someone first time and I have no idea what's their kind of payments, um how they approach payments, then you got to be careful, because I've been in a situation where I did the shoot, I delivered the images, and then for the first 3 months I was fighting to get the money back. even to get paid. And then, there's always someone they have to transfer you to, or, lady from accounting went on holidays and, she forgot, or can you resend the invoice? So make sure they pay you half of half of the amount prior to the session or on the day of the photo shoot, and the rest of it when this whole thing is delivered. Then you at least covered, you at least have something that helps you to kind of manage this whole thing financially, especially for the corporations. If you work with the company, for example, countless times and they always been good, then is a different story. And hey, you know what, I can trust you. Definitely I can wait with them with the payment, whatever, or they pay you, I don't know, within a week, 2 weeks, whatever. But if you have bad experiences with this specific company, then definitely make sure that like you don't get yourself into this situation. And this is the worst part. There's nothing worse like begging those big companies to to get paid, and then you're just begging them to get you're begging them to get own money, and that's just ridiculous. But that's just a kind of experience, and I'm sure a lot of those guys who've been in that industry, they already understand how this whole thing works and how bad it can get sometimes. Image delivery and contracts. So as I said, nowadays we have all those tools and pages where we can deliver those images um, to review quickly. When it comes to the final images, the way I kind of send them all out, it's in a high and low resolution. And yeah, they're getting kind of download a link where they can download those images. Yeah, it's an easy breezy kind of way to deal with this. As soon as they choose their shots, they go through the retouching process, and then the automatization kind of prepares them for the send out. And as soon as they're done, they kind of put in this kind of zip file, and they get transferred to my clients. And when it comes to the contracts, definitely something that everyone should have. Make clients sign the contracts. It's easy to prepare them. You can use AI to create some kind of contract to sign it, especially for the copyrights. If you want to use those images for your portfolio, I always, not only they sign a contract, but always I ask my clients if they're okay to make me those images put on my website. If the client says no, even though they sign a contract and the contract says I have copyrights to kind of publish them, I don't do that. Just there's some people who, I don't know, they value their privacy and they don't want those images to be published, whatever. I have to respect that. But I always ask, like, most people, they definitely want that. They don't see this any problem with that, and they agree to this. Okay. If there are any question regarding pricing, yeah, shoot me, comment. Let's move on because we have a lot of stuff to go through, and we are already like within an hour. Okay, so let's talk about the industry. So let's kind of run briefly through this. So those are the industries which I'm going after. Corporate and business, those are the best ones, pay well. It's hard to get into, but as soon as you kind of get hired and they love your work, they love your approach, probably you're going to get rehired, or they're going to kind of like, push your businesses, or they're going to just kind of create this constant connection where you're going to keep getting work from them. So that's the biggest one. And corporation typically pay more. There's a little bit of struggles, the stuff which we talk about it, but if you are able to get into some good corporations which have constant need for headshots, that could create some kind of constant amount of work coming your way. As I said, but it's hard to get into it, right? Like that's something that sometimes takes a little bit of time, but that's something which I highly recommend to go after, because there's the money. You can make good salary on shooting those corporate headshots. Major real estate agencies, definitely something to look into it. That's again hard to get in, but as soon as you step in and then they love your work, they appreciate the quality of what you do, then it's much easier. And the reason I said major real estate agencies, typically I found individuals, real estate agents, they don't want to pay much. And this is, I don't know, I've been hearing this from a lot of other hedge photographers. I experienced that kind of the same way. Small agencies, or like kind of individual real estate agents, which they don't make tons of money. They just really cheap. Even though it's funny, because in real estate, a lot of those real estate agents, that's their kind of the main thing, the how they advertise, and then how they kind of, and then they don't have a good headshot. So, but the business is there. There's definitely a lot of potential, and put your footing in. Those major ones can also bring you a lot of business. Dating sites, a lot of people nowadays, the divorce rate is kind of like up to the roof. So dating sites, and then people looking for great headshots for their dating profile, it's crazy. So again, another market which you can put your foot in, and then get a lot of work. Model and talent agencies, those are ones which, again, it's hard to get in, because typically takes time to build portfolio. But as soon as you put your foot in, and they love your work, again, definitely something to look into. I found that those model agencies, they pay well, but also you have to build your portfolio around that. So, getting some TFPs, and then getting those kind of like approaching those and say, hey, you know what, I would like to do some, I don't know, TFPs for your models. And then you can kind of provide them, and then at some point, if they love your work, they will start hiring. TV and radio station, the same thing. They always need headshots. Approach them, show them work, and try to, I don't know, get some kind of connection, get some kind of collaboration. And then again, it's a really good business to be with them. um but at the same time, like every major industry, it's hard to get in sometimes. But if you find a way to do that, then like it's really good, constant business coming your way. Medical centers, huge. And I found this is where people need most of headshots. It's very neglected. I found it's fascinating. I had this conversation a couple days ago with some friends of mine on my podcast. I highly recommend it to check it out. And they were saying that they were looking for therapists for their child, and they were going through a bunch of different websites, and none of them had headshots, which is fascinating for me. That therapists who they helping people, and they trying to build their business on kind of building that connection, they don't have headshots or professional images on their websites. And they said, yeah, they hired someone who had a headshot, which is kind of interesting. Law firms, the same thing, a lot of potential business. Most of them, I found, they have a good headshots, and they look for kind of professional ones. So definitely search what it's out there, who doesn't have a good headshots, and then kind of approach them, show them, or kind of try to share with them what you're doing, and they will definitely kind of can bring you a lot of business. Government institutions, something that definitely, it's hard to get into it. I had a chance to work with some politicians. They always need good headshots. And yeah, that's another kind of good way into kind of creating something for the institutions, which also like they pay well. And there's always great collaboration. And the last one, the biggest one, personal branding and social media. Businesses, and different personalities need branding images. So something that there's always business for. So if you start kind of advertising this proper way, you can definitely get a lot of business from that as well. Okay, let's talk quickly about negotiation. This is something which, in my opinion, is extremely important, and this is something that I have to learn too over the time. And this is something where a lot of people makes a lot of mistakes. And you can get potential client, and if you don't know how to negotiate, how to invite them to your services, that's what's going to kind of make your um well, you're going to lose a lot of business, I would say. So when the client comes in, and then they approach you, they send you an email or they call you, it's important to kind of know how to deal with those clients. So first of all, know your worth. I know we talk about it a little bit about the pricing and all the stuff, but don't kind of get into the situation where the clients dictate the prices and the client dictates what they want. You have to understand you providing the service, and you kind of have some kind of offering, and they have to kind of understand. You can kind of bench the pricing, whatever, but don't do this right away, and don't kind of like let the client dictate what they want, because that's huge problem nowadays. I have the clients who are coming and calling, and they're like, oh, I will pay you $100, and they like, expecting like, I'm gonna just fall for that. So you have to kind of build that confidence, and don't kind of get yourself to situations where like you're just doing stuff for fraction of the price because client told you told you so. Building report. So this is kind of the building report, and listen carefully. This is something which is extremely powerful. um, One of the biggest mistakes what I was doing, especially I was dealing with clients who are approaching me, I was trying to sell them something right away. So they were calling for headshots, and I was just like, I do this, I do that, great experience, this is the pricing, whatever. And one day I don't know, I read some book and I listened to some podcasts, and then they said that you got to listen what the client is looking for first. So before you start kind of telling them what you're trying to sell, try to listen what they looking for. So asking proper questions, what this image is for, like why did you kind of called me, and then what you looking for. So then if you have a little bit or better understanding what the client is looking for, it's much easier to kind of tell them what they're looking for, instead talking for, I don't know, 40 minutes and then try to explaining to them what you do. You got to listen, what they need, and then kind of bolt on that and tell them exactly what they want to hear from you. uh be professional and respectful. That's something, another kind of big thing. I don't ever try to kind of get into any argument. Straight answers, straight to the point. I'm not trying to like sugarcoat anything. That's something which is extremely important. Mirroring, this is something which is from psychology, and this is kind of the same when it comes to the part we talk about listening. Try to, as I said, listen to your client and respond to them with the needs, what they're looking for. And this is called mirroring. So if the client is, let's say, looking for, I don't know, specific professional, I don't know, headshot for the new entrepreneur, then you just, okay, this is what I do and this is what I can help you with, right? So listen what they say and respond with some kind of mirroring. um, there's another little element which I've heard from Chris Voss. So he is this master of negotiation, and he talks about this "that's right" technique. Apparently, if you say "that's right" and if you start kind of repeating this, whatever they say, it builds some kind of trust. So make sure whenever you talk to your clients, "that's right," it's some kind of sentence which do the magic. I've tried it, and then it works like a charm. So try to kind of dive into even more into this. I highly recommend, and it's definitely helps you with your negotiation. Respond time, email versus phone call. Nowadays we're living in this kind of crazy world where people expecting this automatic response to your email, or if they send you inquiry. I prefer phone calls. I typically I do both. Most of the time I'm getting emails with inquiries, so I'm trying to respond fairly quick. Now you can automate it, some of those things using AI, where the emails are auto replied automatically, and it's not those just kind of general ones where I'm kind of out of office. I'm not talking about those ones. I'm talking about those ones where there's AI can read the message and respond to it on your behalf, and then you can kind of follow up later. But my preferred technique and preferred way of dealing with clients is phone call, and there's a couple reasons behind that. One, when you talk to the client, it's creating this specific connection, I would say. Also, you can better understand what they're looking for. Not to mention, sometimes we get those difficult clients who they don't know what they want. So this is something that I also learned, that sometimes you have to learn how to say no to the clients. Because if I have a client who calls me like, hey, I'm looking for a headshot photographer, and I work with 8 of them before you, and I hate those images, I want to work with you, then it's you're the next on the list, right? And you don't want those clients. So you also have to learn how to say no. Not to mention, and this is what I said before, if the client calls me and start kind of like dictating pricing, everything, then like I I'm not saying no directly. Typically, I say, you know what, maybe I'm not the best person for the service. I can help you to find somebody else. So I'm trying to be professional, polite, but kind of refuse to work with them. And the reason I'm doing this sometimes, and I know it's kind of hard to believe, but I've learned that if you getting those clients who are, I would say, those troublemakers, and it's your gut is telling you that, okay, you know what, it's going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem. And sometimes it's better to say no to them and just kind of refuse working with them than dealing with them afterwards. And believe me, I could tell you horrifying stories which I went through, where the clients try to, I don't know, prove something, and then they're getting vindictive, they're getting kind of like they're going nuts on social media. And I don't need that, right? So you have to also learn how to choose your emotions. The next one I want to talk about it is keep emotion in check when it comes to discounts. And this is what we talk a little bit at the beginning. Don't offer discounts right away. I know a lot of photographers out there, that's what they do. When someone calls them and they automatically, hey, I'll give you 10% discounts, 20 person discount. Don't do that. Like, this is just the dumbest thing what people do, and just kind of show this desperation, I would say. So I rather to work with the client and give them a discount afterwards when the shoot is done. When they get the images, I can throw something in as a kind of like thank you way of saying thank you and giving them some discount afterwards, rather than just try to hook them in by giving them the discounts. Don't do that. Create urgency, and what that means, if someone contacts you and they like, oh, I want to do the photo shoot, I don't know, whatever, then you can just kind of create this, push this a little bit more towards that, like you're busy, you do a lot of stuff, and so they kind of have understanding that, like it's not around them. You also kind of have to keep your, um I would say, they need to understand sometimes that, they have to work for you as well a little bit. I'm not saying we do this in this kind of psychological way, but that's something what it's important. And the last one, don't be afraid to say no. We discussed this. If you feel that their clients is going absolutely bonkers and you have this gut feeling telling you, okay, you know what, this is going to be problem, then just simply say no. And I think sometimes, if you don't gonna say no, but you felt it and you're gonna go into kind of trouble, then you will know that next time you're gonna be more careful. Okay, let's talk about the social media part. I don't see any questions so far, so it seems like I'm doing a good job. Um, so social media is another topic. I'm going to try to run through it fairly quickly. Um, so the social media is another beast, and this is something which is huge part of what we do. The first one I want to talk is about platform selection. There's more and more platforms we can be showing what do we do, sharing our experiences, showing our services, all this stuff. It's hard to be on all of them. If you have a team of people, there's a different story. But if you're by yourself and you're starting off, I would suggest to choose few of them and stick to them. The ones which I would recommend is definitely, Facebook, definitely Instagram. LinkedIn is a huge one. And the next one would be YouTube and TikTok. And it's already like 6 of them, which is crazy. So the content creations is something which is the most time consuming, but we have to be there, and that there's no other options nowadays. And I think the more content we push, the more visibility we are getting. But as I said, we can have another discussion, and if someone is interested to know a little bit more about what type of content we can share and all this stuff, we can definitely talk about it more. But the more we're putting out there, the more informations we can share. It's a testing ground too. Social media is evolving as well. The stuff what worked, I would say, a few years ago doesn't work anymore today. So I don't want to kind of tell you exactly what you should do, because the stuff what I'm telling right now could change within the next 6 months. Now is a huge era of AI, where people can create artificial content. How that works is this is another discussion. I know that all those platforms, they try to kill it. And if you putting AI content, they're gonna kind of shadow bend you and all this stuff. So you got to be careful with this. The more authentic content you can provide, it's better. The more content which looks real, show personality, show yourself, showing kind of honesty. Apparently this works better, even like nowadays. But again, this is the testing ground, and you have to figure out what works best. Don't sell stuff only on social media. You have to provide some kind of value to your content. Just providing selling elements and selling kind of content, it's going to kill you too, because they have all this AI, I would say, things, well, not things, some kind of like they testing, and they watch your content. If they sense that it's advertising, they automatically kind of shadow ban it. I've learned that too. So is what it is. Content distribution, then one thing what I want to point it out, each platform is different. And content for Instagram, content for Facebook, content for YouTube is different. And then we have to somehow create individual content for each of those platforms, because that's how the content works best. And we have to distribute it through all those channels. The consistency is the one thing. As much as should post it, this is another discussion. I don't want to give you some kind of advice on this one, because some people saying you should have a tons of content putting up every single day. Some people prefer put less content but more valuable, and they put more work onto this. So again, this is like another ocean which you have to figure it out. Audience engagement, huge one, right? Create content which kind of creates some kind of engagement with your clients, with your audience, with people. You can run all sorts of different interesting kind of things through social media. But that's also how they measure your social media content. The more engagement you get, the algorithm helps you to push it even more. Analytics and measurements, it's good to check what works, what doesn't work. We have amazing tools nowadays with social media. You can go into this and see which pieces of content works best, and then you can build on that. That's huge. Don't kind of go after the content which doesn't kind of work, and you see it. Social media advertising, this is another huge topic. The one thing what I would like to say is it's sometimes the hit and miss, right? You have to strategize properly, create a budget, how much you want to spend. It's working, but also you have to figure out the kind of balance between spending and making money, right? Because if you spend, I don't know, $10,000 on your social media advertising and you make five, then it's not working, right? If you So it's like the advertising should make you money, not losing the money, right? And then nowadays nobody cares if this is going to work for you or not. You got to kind of learn this yourself and see what's work. What my suggestion would be is start very slow, and then just kind of bolt on the things which work well. And that's how you can kind of grow your advertising through those campaigns which works best for you. Likes versus clients, sprint versus marathon. And this is something which I'm sure most of you guys heard about it. Social media, it's not a sprint. It takes time. Now it's even harder. I would say back in the days was much easier to build the audience, build the engagement, build all sorts of cool stuff. Nowadays it's completely different story. Nobody cares about likes. And it's more about the clients. And what I mean by that, I know sometimes it looks kind of cool if we have, I don't know, 100,000 followers, a million followers on YouTube and all this, kind of crazy numbers. But at the end of the day, everything comes down to how many clients we're getting out of this and how many people are willing to pay you for your services, for whatever you're doing. So just because you have 1,000 followers on Instagram, but you have, I don't know, your schedule is booked up, you're successful. So don't judge someone based on how many followers they have, how many subscribers they have. This is irrelevant nowadays. It's more about, how much clients comes to you and want to do business with you. So unfortunately, social media, as I say, it's another beast. Technically, the best way would be have someone who would do it full time for you. But if you kind of starting off and you have to do it yourself, just make a great schedule, create this kind of plan, strategy, and kind of stick to it and kind of work on this the way that, if something works, take it and improve it, and then you will see, the progress. And the lastly, don't follow for, as I said, subscribers, followers. The numbers, as I said, they're not as important as amount of clients you are getting. Okay, if there will be any additional questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. So throw the questions. Also, you can contact me afterwards and we can talk even more deeper on that topic. Okay, so we're coming to the end slowly. So marketing. So the first thing what I want to say here, and again, this is huge topic here. That we could just kind of create another webinar on this. But the best way to do business in headshot photography is word of mouth. And the way I look at it, first of all, clients who comes from referral, or someone recommend you, or someone kind of said someone, hey, you know what, I use this guy. Those are the best clients. They're coming, they're booking, they're paying, and it's fantastic. You don't have to do any dance around clients who comes out of somewhere, and then you have to prove yourself that you worth it, the service, and then worth it their money. I found, and I do everything what I can in my way of approaching marketing, is to my clients or my kind of, I don't know, it sounds kind of bad, like a soldiers to push my business. And I do everything what I can to make sure that I provide best service, best images. So when the client leaves, those are the people who are going to push my business. This is something which is extremely important, and this is what I highly recommend to a lot of photographers. That should be your core base on marketing structure. You want your clients coming from your clients, and like there's a lot of examples why this is works so well. Because if you say to someone, hey, you know what, I'm doing great service, I'm providing you great images, whatever, it's a one story. But if you have a client who can share that and show their images, automatically those people, they already have trust to you, they already want to work with you, there's no kind of money discussion. They know exactly that they already trust you. And a lot of photographers, I think, forget about it. And they deeply believe that, I don't know, the social media campaigns work great, whatever. In my opinion, word of mouth is the best way of doing business in headshot photography. The next one is creative sessions. So if you're starting off and you don't have portfolio, doing some kind of creative stuff, it's fascinating. Not only teaches you a lot about headshots, but also kind of helps you to understand clients. And like in doing those sessions, definitely will help you to also expand your services. Because if you do images for someone, they're going to show it on social media or friends or whatever. That's how they're going to kind of see your work. So if you are, as I said, starting off, and even if you are professional and you have, I don't know, dead month where there is nothing going on, and we have those, let's be honest, doing those free creative sessions for, I don't know, friends, colleagues, someone who is in need, or create some kind of project you want to shoot veterans or someone, just to kind of push your work, just to kind of get attention, just to get something, where people can see your work, always going to benefit you. And I can tell you, like, I've done some free sessions for veterans, and I got so much business out of this. It was kind of crazy. It's fascinating that, like, I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but then I've done it, and they were recommending me to their friends, to their families, to, some other stuff. And all of a sudden, 3-hour photo shoot, which I've done for free, turn it into, like, 3 months or solid work. So, definitely, something that helps you to build your business and grow to business. So I know there's a lot of discussions out there when it comes to, doing stuff for free. um, I deeply believe that, if you have a spare time, it's better to do something than doing nothing. And I can guarantee you, if you produce work, you share it, and then, people see it, people kind of, I don't know, relate to it, um, then it will bring you the business. Utilize paid advertising. You talk about it. It's a hit and miss sometimes, in my opinion, but you have to do it, pushing your work out there. So free photo shoots, we discussed this. I also do email campaigns. So one of the things what I want to point it out here, especially for professional and then people who are starting, build your email addresses, list, because this is something which I was neglecting for many, many years, till I realized, what, emails are the most valuable things for marketing. Because, people don't necessarily look in your social media, they don't pay attention to, a lot of stuff what you do. But emails, most of them, they respond, well, not respond to it, but they checking their emails. So if you have solid email lists from all your clients who work with you, who trusted you, and you say, hey, you know what, I'm doing this, I don't know, photo shoot for, I don't know, business owners, whatever. If you blast email like that, you're always going to get the clients. So whoever comes through your door, whoever comes to you and want to work with you, and have a great service, get their email, because that's what's going to definitely, keep you in touch with those people. You can remind them once in a while about yourself. You can share if you have some campaigns, you have something going on, you creating some events, whatever. And keeping in touch with these people is extremely important. Don't overdo it. And what I mean is, like, don't send them emails every week, or, twice a week. For, like, in my opinion, I think twice a month, once a month is ideal, just to kind of quick reminder about yourself. It's good. And then also you will notice, for example, how many of those emails were open. I'm using MailChimp. It's fantastic software to manage this, to send those, email campaigns and then emails to your clients. And also you can see how many people open them up, how many people unsubscribe. So, like, I'm getting like about 70% opening rate, which is huge. And this is one of the reasons I'm not doing this, like I don't know, too much, right? And then probably you've noticed there's so many different companies out there. As soon as you give them the email, they blast you like 5-6 emails a day, which is insanity. And they're just killing themselves. Like, I think they just literally killing their own business by, like, overwhelming with people with emails and all this stuff what they're doing. Create educational content, not only for, other photographers, but also for your clients. I do have some amazing PDF files, how to prepare yourself for a headshot session, how what the headshot session is doing for your business, why how important that is. So create something which brings some kind of value to your clients. And creating that educational content not only helps you to understand your business better, but also helps your clients, right? And other photographers, if you want to kind of help other people too, go for it. Testimonials, huge. Whoever comes to your door, get the testimonials, and, put on Google review. Ask them. Typically, what I do, I actually, well, there's a couple stories what I want to share with you. One of them, Google just killed my Google account for whatever reason. I tried to kind of deal with this, and I had like over 100, I don't know, like quite a bit of reviews there. And yeah, for some reason someone reported and getting in touch with them, so I have to start everything over again. So be also careful with that. But testimonials, typically what I ask is either on the Google or just kind of direct, and then you can put on your website and share that with your audience. Invest in SEO. And what I mean is investing more like a time. It's really easy. We have AI models nowadays which can help you with that, but it's also important to make sure that your site is seen on Google searches and all those different platforms. And build strong online presence. We talk about it, social media. That takes time nowadays, unfortunately, and this is something that takes a little bit of time, but you got to work on it. Okay, so we have a couple more. Advertising. So a couple things. When it comes to advertising, make sure you're targeting the right people. This is huge. We talk about those businesses which are our potential clients. So make sure you're following them. The medium, and what I mean by that is, how you advertise, what kind of medium you're using. Nowadays, I found the best way to advertise, again, it's through your referral programs, through social media platforms, and then you can do email campaigns and all this kind of stuff. um, Messages, this is the same thing, kind of like sending the right information to the clients once in a while, and building that kind of like connection with your clients. Another one is creative photo shoots. We talk about it. There's nothing better than showing your work for creative work. And I can tell you that it's fascinating. Sometimes I was doing those insane creative headshot session with some flowers and all this stuff, and people saw it, caught their attention, and basically, they were hiring you for the business headshots. So don't kind of think that just because you're doing something creative, something more extraordinary, something outside the box, is you're not going to bring some clients who they're looking just for the regular headshot session. So this is the best way to advertise. Call to action. So this is basically, whenever you're advertising, make sure the clients you know do the step to hire you or contact you or get you an email and all this stuff, right? So that's something also extremely important, that not just creating the stuff and putting out there and advertise, but also you have to somehow, nowadays especially, force the clients to take action and reach out to you, contact you, and try to kind of start the negotiation process, or something that is going to bring the clients to your door. Budgets, that's the huge one. I prefer to, as I said, invest money into my services, so when the clients leaves, they're going to get great experience, great service, and they typically going to hire me for, or recommend me to other people. um, you know Another thing is, when it comes to spending money, those creative sessions, this is another kind of like time. Well, this another amount of money you have to put it in to make sure that you're getting something out of this. When it comes to the social media advertising, we talk about it. Take it slow, take it easy. Don't kind of kill yourself and spend tons of money on something which you don't know it's working, especially. But if you're going to do this slowly, gradually, with the right steps, you will start kind of getting back for your money. And it's much easier to not only get clients, but don't spend too much. And measure this whole thing. If something is working, that's great. If it's not working, you got to figure out why it's not working and try something different. Don't spend tons of money on something which doesn't work. You see clearly, let's say, for the measurement, and or from all those tools we have nowadays to see how the advertising campaigns work or not, if you're getting something out of it or not. Okay, so let's kind of talk about networking. So this is huge. Networking nowadays is massive. So we're going to kind of probably end it up here. It's been an hour and a half. And then we're going to get into the questions. So the networking is massive. And that's something which I've been struggling a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you. And what I mean by that, I'm not kind of extrovert who loves parties or events and all sorts of stuff like that. But unfortunately, when it comes to running in a business, you have to be in some kind of network um, environment where you can connect with people, you can meet people, and then all this interesting things. I'm pushing myself, believe it or not, which is not easy for me, but I have to kind of sometimes go to those industry events or some other type of events where I can socialize and I can meet people and kind of introduce myself and share what I do. So that takes a little bit of kind of push on my end to kind of go to those places which I don't like, being in the big crowds. But those are huge, and it's important to network with people, because that's what's going to bring you a lot of business. Because nowadays also, I found, is sometimes who who kind of knows you and who going to push your business. So kind of networking is one of those huge elements in our industry to make sure you are part of it, because that's what's going to bring you definitely business. Join photography groups and forums, another huge one. Like, I love to work and collaborate with businesses, with other photographers, being in good kind of being in touch with them, because you just never know who's going to help you, who's going to kind of need your help. So join local groups, join local kind of forums, discuss stuff. I know it's time consuming, but this is another little element which definitely helps you to grow your business. Volunteer services, we talk a little bit about it. So I'm talking about those free photo shoots where you go to places doing stuff for free, and then that's going to help you to, so people know you and kind of recommend you, and you can kind of, I don't know, help some cause, and get business from that. And I can guarantee you, like, this for me, it was like one of the biggest things where I actually participate in a lot of interesting projects for free, and that was bringing a lot of business afterwards. Use social media. Yeah, that's something which is, again, extremely time consuming, but it's something what we have to do. I'm not saying to spend 8 hours on social media and kind of network with people, but it's good sometimes to jump on social media and reach out to some of those businesses we would love to work with, or interact with them somehow. And social media is one of those places where we can definitely do that. Offer referral incentives. That's what I was talking about. All my clients who coming through the door, I always giving them some kind of referral, like 10% off for the clients they refer, or they're gonna just share with them about my services. That always helps. And you can use that as a kind of business card too. So pushing the businesses that way, I found, is huge. It definitely helps. Building relationships, that's kind of summarize this whole thing. It's all about being in relationship with businesses, with business owners, with organizations, and all this interesting places, because they definitely gonna build your business. I think nowadays we reached the point where everything comes down to pretty much relationships with people. I think the social media is started being pushed a little bit away, and we getting into the era where one-on-one, face-to-face relationships going to build your business like nothing else. So something to remember, something to kind of be always prepared. Business cards, whatever, I'm sorry, whatever you're doing, be ready to kind of share with people about what you do, and creating those connections and relationships, because that's eventually will start kind of like really bringing you a lot of business. Okay, so let's kind of financial. We're gonna skip this. If you're gonna, everyone has gonna have some questions, I'll be more than happy. Like, I'm really beat up already, but let's kind of finalize this whole thing, and let's talk about 10 business rules to follow. And I actually build that over the time, and that's something which definitely helps my business. And I highly recommend it to read this once in a while, because that's gonna definitely helps you to understand the business from kind of different perspective. So number one, people don't care about your offer, only what you offer can do for them. So in headshots, they don't come for your offer, how great it is. It's what those images they're gonna do for them. So whenever you try to sell your product, try to approach it what those images are gonna do for them, how they're gonna improve their business, how they're gonna improve their connection with people, how people are gonna see them, and all this, interesting stuff. So take take your business from that approach. Don't try to sell them something because it's cheaper, it's better. Always approach the way that what those images are going to do for them. Sell the transformations, not the product. So you're not selling the images. What you're selling is, as I said, the images, what they're going to do for them. So if they have a crappy headshot on their website, on their profile of LinkedIn or social media, whatever, try to share with them what this image is going to do for them, how they're going to transform how people are going to see them. Don't sell just the images. Big one, and it's going to completely change the dynamic between you and your clients. Sales are about listening. So it's not about what you want to try to sell them, it's about what they need from you, and that's a huge one. Try to listen to your clients, pay attention to whatever they say, read between the line, and approach those sales from what they are looking for. If what you sell is confusing, nobody will buy. Again, make everything simple. Pricing, packages, the way you approach the service, the simple it is, it's going to be much, much easier for the clients to understand, and they're going to be much, much more willing to buy from you and use your services. If you're making things confusing, they don't understand nothing, none of that, it's just going to just turn them away. That's as simple as it is. Tell the prospect your price, then shut up. I know a lot of clients, they try to explain themselves. Not clients, a lot of photographers, they try to explain themselves. If they're gonna say, let's say the session is $1,000 because this and that, just don't do that. Just tell them the price, and then let them digest this whole thing on their own. That's the huge. I know it's hard for us sometimes, but we try to kind of explain to them why this is the price, cost that much, and you try to share with them, oh, because I'm doing retouching, I'm doing this, and then equipment and all this stuff. They don't care. For them is, if they see the value, if they see that's worth it, they will pay for it, right? So that's something which it's very helpful, and then it's going to save you a lot of, because if you try to explain yourself too much, usually what happens, like, again, the desperation kind of kicks in, and they can sense it, and usually it doesn't work. Selling a good product in a bad market is a losing battle. So we talk about all those industries, and I think we discuss where to go to kind of get the businesses, and what industries we should go after, because there's some industries which they don't need headshots, they don't care about the headshots, and you can just do whatever you want, whatever you think it's going to bring your clients, is nothing's going to work, right? So focus on those places, those locations, those industries which they really need headshots, and kind of go after that, and I can guarantee you sooner or later you'll start get business. Never sacrifice your reputation over the money. This is huge, and this is also, again, we've talked about it. Money is important. We have to pay the bills and do all these kind of cool things to make the business running. But I've learned that sometimes clients, they're just toxic, and doesn't matter how much they pay you, they might turn your experience working with them into disaster. We've been there, done that. If someone is interested to know more stories, I'll be more than happy to share them in kind of personal way. But let me tell you, I've worked with people I shouldn't work, and I knew it, I felt it, but I thought more about making money rather than how damage they're going to cause to me, to my business, and everything what I do. The market isn't saturated, your offer just sucks. And what that means is, there's tons of headshot photographers, but I think there's room for everybody. Everyone has own style, everyone has kind of own approach. There's extreme need for headshots nowadays. So saying, oh, I don't have a business because there's too many photographers is nonsense. I think, especially in headshot photography industry, I think that everyone needs headshots. Businesses, you name it. Every industry needs headshots. So definitely there's a lot of room for everybody, and it's just a matter that you probably approach this whole thing the wrong way and you're not getting the clients. A happy customer is the most powerful form of marketing, and that's the summary of my entire webinar. If your clients coming to you, getting amazing headshots, getting great, amazing experience, is the most powerful form of marketing. They're going to go out there, they're going to talk about you, they're going to rave about you, they're going to definitely tell everybody who they know about what you do, and that's what's going to bring you the business. And entire marketing plan and business plan should be the core of understanding how to be successful in this industry. Okay, so if there are any questions, I'll wait a few more minutes and then we can kind of answer them. If anyone wants to talk to me directly, definitely I will be more than happy to answer all your questions. It seems like there is quite a bit of people listening and being part of it, so I truly appreciate it. So I'll wait a few more minutes when it comes to the questions. If not, we're probably going to call this off and finish it. And then if anyone needs any more specific informations, I'll be more than happy to answer them directly. You can send me an email, you can shoot me a message, whatever works. So let's wait a couple more minutes, and if there is nobody, we will call it off. I know there's a little bit of delay because this is going through YouTube, so maybe that takes a little bit of time, but okay. So there's a question for groups. Do you ask if the customer have a budget? So that's a tricky question. So okay, let's kind of look at this from a different perspective. So typically what I do, the way when I approach, I'm trying to get, as I mentioned, as many informations as possible. So I know exactly what I'm getting into. Because if someone tells you like, hey, you know what, I have $1,000, but I have 40 people, and then this shoot's going to be spread out for, I don't know, 3 days in different location, all this stuff. So before you even jump into this entire conversation about having a budget, I would first ask about what they need, what they're looking for, what type of images they need, how many people is involved, how many locations, where do you guys want to shoot, and then I would, before I start asking about a budget, I would definitely come up with, based on those informations, what they provided to you, to create some kind of like frame of how much you want to make, and they kind of work around it. That's what I would do. Because asking about a budget, sometimes they will tell you, let's say $500. They of course they're going to go as cheap as possible, and that's, you kind of stuck with it at this point. Because then let's say you want to charge $3,000 for, I don't know, let's say 30 people, and they're $500. It's just completely mismatch, right? And then what happens is then it's like they're gonna go, oh, so why don't we do 1,000? So before asking about a budget, yeah, just get the informations, what they need, how many people, all those like little details, which going to help you to understand what you're getting into. And then have the kind of ball price, and then kind of like, I don't know, tell them, look, this is what I would typically charge, but what's your budget? That's how I would approach this whole thing. I hope that answered your question. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I think no more questions, so I'm gonna call this off. I would like to say thank you everyone for participate, listening. And if there's more questions, more concerns, anything you'd like to ask in details, you know where to find me. Please feel free to shoot me an email or message. And yeah, I'll be more than happy to answer whatever questions you guys have. So thank you again for joining. Stay tuned, and I'll prepare another webinar in the next couple weeks. And yeah, we'll talk more about headset photography. Take care and have a fantastic Sunday. Take care and bye bye.